I realized I am a descendant. And I am standing at that space where we were enslaved, but we were never supposed to survive.
On the banks of the same shore where between 40 and 50% of enslaved people first set foot in America, now stands a museum devoted to telling our stories.
This is not just building, say, a new park or a development or a restaurant. This is about building a museum, a space that's here to tell the stories that made the space so sacred in the first place, but also talk about why that makes a difference today. We're a first voice museum, so we're telling the story of the African American journey from the African American perspective and through African American voice. And so that's how we're thinking about those stories and bringing them forward.
The International African American Museum opens its doors at the end of June after 20 years of planning.
A lot of folks say, wow, why did it take so long? But when you come to the museum, you ask, how did you get it done so quick? And we're right on the water. So when you talk about reclaiming, when you talk about being able to tell these stories and to claim a space that essentially is waterfront property in one of the #1 tourist destinations in the world, this was a big thing, right? So a lot of political will, a lot of community gathering, a lot of telling people about the stories that we were going to hold and why it was so important and why we could get this space.
And what a space it is. The $120 million project measures nearly 150,000 square feet.
We have an entire gallery that helps to introduce to some and reinforce to others of the power and the impact of this still thriving culture that is here in the Lowcountry. I would claim that every American History Museum should have a little bit of Gullah. But of course, we have a whole gallery. We have the Gullah Geechee Gallery, and this is a community of African Americans who have maintained extraordinary cultural ties to our West African and Central West African heritage. There are many reasons for that. Part of that was the level of isolation of the plantations and plantation living here. It's suspected that that allowed the enslaved peoples to maintain and to cultivate and to even hide what they were maintaining and cultivating in that way.
So what else can you expect to see and experience?
We have gardens and art installations that are outside. There's a whole audio tour that goes with that. We have this whole strand of contemporary art that weaves through all of our history galleries, right? It's called our creative journeys. And I kind of like that surprise. You'll round a corner and be like, oh, okay, here's some art. We have devoted an amount of space that is equivalent to the largest gallery in the museum to a genealogy and ancestry. We also have our own eyes and connections. And because where we are, remember in the beginning, we were talking how important Gadsden's Wharf is. You're talking, 40+% of folks came through this space. So that means that our archives that are based here on Lowcountry plantations are extraordinary in terms of being able to connect people to how we actually came into this space.
As for what sets this museum apart from the Smithsonian,
one of the things that differentiates us is our international lean and the depth. So we do that from origin stories, but also intentional connections to the diasporic community, right? So we're talking about Haiti, we're talking about Barbados in a real sort of cultural, geographic kind of way. The second thing is actually the Gullah Geechee Gallery, how much time and space we can actually devote to that conversation, including in our programming because of where we are.
And although there are some heavy reminders of our past, you can also expect to feel some joy.
There are days when I'm standing outside and I'm looking over the water and I know what I'm looking at. I'm still seeing cargo ships. I'm still seeing the Atlantic Ocean. But at the end of the day, I realize I am a descendant. And I am standing at that space where we were enslaved, but we were never supposed to survive. And look whose baby had a baby, had a baby, had a baby. And here I am now. And so I have to say, most days, I have to admit, I'm out here with a little bit of swagger and pride.